Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. I apologize for the late start today. We had some election special stuff going on here in the newsroom, and very important to do our civic duty. And don't forget to go out and vote on Tuesday. But back to our world of sports betting, and got a nice show for you today. Lots of football to talk about, and I'm going to have a quick sportsbook lesson on betting frequency, which is how often you wager and how that affects your approach to bankroll management. So we'll talk about that for a little bit. But before we get into that and college and pro football, we're going to do what we always do and start by updating my bankroll. And went 2-3 this week. It's kind of been a yo-yo month for us. To go up a little bit, down a little bit, up a little bit, down a little bit. Starting bankroll, $556. Ohio State, Wisconsin, we had the over. They played very, very conservative in the first half against Wisconsin there, and they missed that over by about 5 points. So that was a loss of $19 to the bankroll. We had Louisville also the over, and that missed by about a field goal, and that was another loss of $19 to the bankroll. So college football didn't do us any favors last week. In the pros, we had the Jaguars -6 that covered. That was a win, plus $17 to the bankroll. We had the Bucks and Titans, and Mike Evans caught about 200 and something yards worth of passes, and he was the primary beneficiary of the Bucks offense, and he single-handedly destroyed our chances of getting that under. We missed it by about 5 there, so -19 to the bankroll. And then we had the Packers and Chiefs over on Sunday night, and that was easily my most confident wager, and that was not much of a sweat for us, and that was $19 to the bankroll. So if you do the math, we had a net loss of $21 on the week. Brings our bankroll back down to $535, and if you divide by 30, as we have been doing every week on the program because we're selective sports bettors, you will see our bet size is now reduced to $18 going forward this week. And as I say that every week, I'm not sure a lot of people realize why I divide by 30, other than the fact that I keep saying I'm a selective sports bettor. But that brings us to our sportsbook lesson today. And what is betting frequency? And betting frequency is how often you wager. How many wagers per day? How many wagers per week? How many wagers per month? How many wagers per season? Some people just bet one sport. And betting frequency is a personal choice. You can bet a lot or little. That's up to you. It's none of my business how often you bet. But what I'm trying to import to the viewers are if your betting frequency is high, you have to adjust your bankroll to withstand you have to adjust your bankroll to withstand the volume of your wagers. And also, as I point out, we talked about how many per month, et cetera, et cetera. Certain times of the year, you may have much higher frequency than the rest of the year, such as March Madness. I know I have some friends that go to Vegas every year for the tournament, the NCAA tournament, and bet pretty much every game for that 4-day weekend of the round of 64 to the Sweet 16, and you're making a lot of wagers in a short amount of time. So you need to have appropriate bankroll because short-term results can be very poor or very good, obviously. But you're just watching the show, you know that I average about 5 wagers per week. And I've had weeks that I go 0-5, and I've had weeks that I go 5-0. So short-term results can vary widely, and you need to make sure that you have enough in reserve so you can continue to wager. So let's put together betting frequency and bankroll management. And not going to spend a lot of time on this today, but it's a very important concept that I think if you are taking betting seriously, even as entertainment. And maybe you don't even have a profit motive, but you need to take this lesson to heart because in order to stay in the game, and staying in the game means having money to wager. You need to stretch that bankroll to fit your betting frequency. So these are a couple of examples of recommendations that I would give to somebody to have to wager with, so they can stay in the game and they hopefully won't run out of money anytime soon. Now, for those of you that follow the show, 5 bets per week is my average, and I use a 30-bet bankroll. So, if my bet is $20, 20 times 30 is $600. So I need to keep a $600 bankroll. Now, that doesn't mean I have to carry around $600 in my pocket. It just means that I have to have that money set aside or earmarked for my betting bankroll. It's money that you don't have to have in hand, but that you have committed to your wagering activities. An example, too, here's a crazier example. 10 bets per day, 100-bet bankroll. Now, if I was doing 10 bets a day, which I do not recommend, except for the most professional of bettors, I would adjust my bankroll daily. I'm doing 5 bets per weekend on the show here, and I adjust my bankroll once a week. If I was doing 10 bets a day, I would adjust my bankroll daily. So if let's just say I wagered $5 a game, and I bet, 10 bets a day, that's $50 a day. So that would be, 100 bets would be a $500 bankroll. So I would start with that, and I would adjust it every day. If I had a losing day, my bets go smaller. If I had a winning day, my bets go slightly bigger. And that's something that you have to keep in mind. So you can, stretch your bankroll, fit your bankroll to your betting frequency. And it can be fun to have. There is nothing wrong with having a few bucks on a game just because you want to watch the game and have a little action on the game. Nothing wrong with that. But we have to keep in mind that we have to balance the financial strength of our bankroll so we can continue to wager, or if we have a profit motive, we have to either reduce our bet size or increase our bet size to push forward and try and increase profit. So a very important lesson, even though a short one. Hope you found that somewhat useful. And we will move right along into our college football, and we've got Week 10, and I'm going to come right out and say that not a whole lot of great matchups this week in college football. A lot of some of the top teams are playing what I would call the cupcake opponent, and some of them don't even, Clemson game doesn't even have a line. I think they're playing Wofford. But when a big two things come into play when I look at big spreads. Number one is my model does not track large spreads very well. I find that in college football, it's just not that accurate. I've talked about second string versus second string. The model can't predict that. So it's a question of how long do the starters play and how motivated are they. And it's a very difficult handicapping situation. So I like to stay away from those. I like to play handicap games where teams have winning records and they have something to play for. And those are, there's 40 to 60 college games a week, and I can't spend the time handicapping every one. So I take the best 10 to 15 games and do what I can with those. And so this is what we got this week. Michigan at Maryland in the Big Ten. Michigan coming off their big win against Notre Dame, favored by 21 points. And my model has that lined almost exactly as the Sportsbook does. I don't see any value there. If anything, I think this is a big letdown spot for Michigan. Maybe go I have no idea what to do with that game. I'm just going to pass. Boston College at Syracuse. For those of us who live in New York, we can't bet on this game. The model has Syracuse as a 2.89 favorite. Syracuse is lined as a 3.5 favorite, 60. I got to tell you, I like BC in this game. Even though my model says Syracuse is a slight favorite, BC has a lot more to play for. Syracuse, both of these teams need this win to be bowl eligible. I just feel like Syracuse has not proven itself offensively. They can't score enough points to compensate for the amount of points they give up. And even though they've fared very well against BC over the years, I lean towards BC here myself. NC State at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is surprising 6-1. I have them as 8.6 point favorites. 64 is the total, so that leans over. I do expect points to be scored there. That's a lot of points, though. It's lined pretty high. Virginia Tech at Notre Dame, minus 17, 58, minus 17.13, 56.57. Line almost exactly as the Sportsbook has it. Notre Dame needs to come out with a monster performance to shake off that bad defeat they took last week. Their playoff hopes are over, but they're still hoping for a New Year's Day bowl game. Miami at Florida State, big rivalry game, minus 349. I have Florida State at minus 4.1, 48.01. I do like Florida State here. Miami is a team that seems to have trouble finishing games. They play great for three quarters, and that fourth quarter has been tough for them. Both of these programs are rebuilding, but rivalry game, a lot to play for. I lean Florida State here. We'll probably just stay away from it. TCU at Oklahoma State. I love these Big 12 games. Usually shootouts. Minus 2.5, 59.5. I have Oklahoma State at minus 3, 60.05. Should be a fun game to watch. And then Georgia versus Florida in Jacksonville, the world's largest cocktail party. The winner of this game is going to be the team that gets to face either Alabama or LSU in the SEC championship game. And Florida is getting 6.5, 44.5. I have this game as almost a coin flip, but Florida 1-point dog and 46.11. I took Florida against LSU, and they lost by half a point. They couldn't punch it in at the end of the game, even though the outcome wasn't in doubt. It was the cover that was in doubt. I do like this. This is technically a home game for Florida. Obviously, the game is in the state of Florida. It leans over, and I would not be surprised if it went over, but it's like a 5-point swing to Florida, so I like that game a lot. Let's see what else we got in college. Florida Atlantic at Western Kentucky. We got a little Conference USA going on here. Minus 151.5. Both of these teams have excellent records. I have Florida Atlantic as a 1-point favorite, 51.33, so that's right on. I like Florida Atlantic here. I feel like that this is a team on the rise and it's very undervalued, and that's a game to keep an eye on. Utah at Washington. Utah is trying to keep their Pac-12 hopes alive and maybe sneak in the playoff with one loss. Tough road game for them. Washington is a 3-point dog at home, 47. I have Utah as a 1.64 favorite, 46.13, lean slightly under. I would stay away from that game. Virginia at North Carolina, minus 2.5, 46.5. I have it minus 2.83 and 50.15, so that leans over. Virginia's had that red zone issue their last couple of games. They have no trouble getting to the red zone, but they have trouble putting it in. That makes me want to stay away from that game. SMU at Memphis, minus 5.5, 71.5. This is the two top 25 teams getting a primetime game from ABC. I have Memphis as 2.7 favorites, but this game could go either way. 73.06, so it leans a little bit to the over, but SMU getting an extra 3 points there, so that's something to consider as you look for wagers this weekend. Oregon at USC, plus 4, 62. I have them at 5.86 and 59.25. So my model likes Oregon with the -4. But the Oregon games have gone under. Their defense is a little underrated. And I think the book, they have a reputation for being an up-tempo, the Chip Kelly era teams, but they're not really that style of football anymore. And you're getting, a good 3 or 4 points to the under here. So I like the under in that game. And then finally, Boise State at San Jose State, 2 good Mountain West teams. San Jose State's getting 17 at home. I have Boise State as 14.83-point favorites, 59-29. It's right on the total. That leans almost a field goal to San Jose State. Probably stay away from that game, but that's where the value lies if you are looking at that game. So let's move on to the pro games and Week 9 in the NFL, and we're going to start with breakfast at Wembley. Texans and Jaguars in London. Jaguars 1-point dogs, 46 is the total. I have the Jags as 3.7 dogs, so that leans to the Texans. 43 is the total, that leans under. A lot of my model leans under a lot this week, and I agree with a lot of them, but some of them that doesn't leave too many great wagering opportunities. They got the Potato Skins at the Buffalo Bills, -9.5. 37, Haskins is going to start for Washington. I have them as 7.45-point favorites and 34.72 on the total. It's going to be a cold day in Buffalo, but that doesn't mean they won't put up points. Titans at Panthers, -3.5, 42.5. I have the Panthers at 4.29 and 43.33. Vikings at Chiefs, currently off the board. I wonder if that means Mahomes might play this week. This model did not have him as the starter. Plus 2.48, 49.42 is the total. It'd be interesting to see what the number comes in at, but I do expect a lot of points to be scored there. Jets at the Dolphins, +3 to Dolphins at home, 42.5. Plus 1.49, 41.21. I think this game may go over, even though the model says under, because these teams really don't have anything to play for. Kind of let it all hang out. So good weather, that would imply it should be close to an over. Bears at the Eagles, 2 teams that have had their struggles this year, although the Eagles coming off that impressive win in Buffalo, -5, 42, -5.57, 42.02. If that got to 6, I would, think about taking the Bears. The Bears, they've had trouble scoring points, but they've been in most of the games they've played. They've been, within a touchdown every step of the way. So if it goes, a little bit higher, it seems like value to me. Colts at the Steelers. Steelers +1 at home. That's very rare you see the Steelers as a dog at home, 42. 0.75, 41.86. That's almost exactly right onto my model. Really no play, no value there. And the rest of the Sunday games, the NFL games, Lions at the Raiders, -2.5, 50.5. I have the Raiders as 1.16-point favorites, and 46.42 is the total. The Lions have been giving up points, but that leans under about 4.5 points, and that's good value in the NFL, and so that's on my radar for sure. The Bucs at the Seahawks, -5, 52.5, -4.61, 50.66. If that does go under, it'll probably be due to a missed kick. The Bucs have just turned the ball over too much. They leave their defense on the field too much. The Browns at the Broncos, +3.5, 39. Now, Joe Flacco is not playing, but what I'm going to say to you is that his backup will not be much of a drop-off for the way that Joe has been playing. So you have a couple of quarterbacks that don't have much NFL experience playing. However, I don't anticipate it being that much of a drop-off from Joe Flacco, from 2019 Joe Flacco. So I have the Broncos actually as a very, very slightest of favorites, a pick 'em. So I like the +3.5, especially because this is going to be a low-scoring game. So my model says 36 points. I am sure Baker Mayfield wants to have a good game to quiet his critics. Packers at Chargers, plus 3.5, 48. I have the Packers as 5.75 favorites, 46.51. So I like taking the Packers minus the 3.5. Patriots at Ravens, that's the big game Sunday afternoon. Ravens getting 3 at home, 45. I have the Patriots at 5.11 point favorites, 45.85. I would think this game may end up going over. Harbaugh, the Ravens coach, is a very good time manager, so is Belichick. So over is a very good possibility here. And then Monday night, we have the Cowboys at the Giants. Giants getting 7, which seems like a very attractive number at first. 48 is the total. Cowboys plus 6.59, 47.7. So that number's right on what the model says. You remember the Cowboys played on the road at Miami, and they couldn't cover the spread. I think they ended up winning by 10. But they played horribly, in the first half, and I would not be surprised if that happened again. They don't seem to be a very good road team. So we'll see if the Giants can play up to their level of competition or not. So that's going to wrap it up for the football. So why don't we finish the show up with my picks, and I got a 6-pack for you today. There were a lot of different plays, different combinations, and this is what I came up with. Florida against Georgia, I'm going to take the 6.5 minus 105. It's going to be a competitive game, and I like the points there. Florida Atlantic, I really like on the road at Western Kentucky, getting +1 minus 103. It's pretty much the same if you're on the money line, so might as well take that point. And Oregon USC under 62, minus 108. As I said, Oregon's defense is very underrated, and I like this game to stay under 62. And then on Sunday, we got the Packers minus 3.5, plus 101. Aaron Rodgers is just in the zone. Of course, this will be the game where he gets hurt probably, so... but assuming he stays healthy, as does the rest of his fellow Packers, I like them to win on Sunday. And I'm going to take Denver with the backup quarterback situation, plus 3.5, minus 104. The Browns can't seem to close anybody out anyway. These teams are pretty close, I think, in quality. And then the Lions and the Raiders under 50.5, minus 105. Lions on the road, playing outdoors, maybe not as many points as they've scored at home at Ford Field. So that's 6 games for you. That'll do it. Maybe we can pad our bankroll a little bit. I'm going to head over to the Sportsbook after the show here and, make my plays for the week. So if you see me over there, don't be afraid to stop and say hello and talk sports betting. I love to talk to anybody and everybody. So thanks for watching. Sorry I started late. Once again, don't forget to go on and vote on Tuesday. Enjoy the games this weekend. Make sure you have enough bankroll to make your wagers. So on that note, I'm going to play the outro music. And take care, everybody. Thank you for watching.